How good does it get, SK?
Why not us, Charlie?
Today, live from the Pinecrest Inn, it's the Smylie Show. So long, everybody.
This is the Smylie Show.
Welcome back to the Smylie Show, where Smiley's at home in Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm joining you from a very uniquely appointed game room in the mountains of Western North Carolina. We're just looking at a neon sign over here that Smylie and all of his creative operational this newfound role said, we're going away from that, Charlie. We need a different backdrop here, and so here we are.
Yeah, it was a lot, I must say. But are you guys just getting rained on up there?
We got rained on a lot, but here's like the spin zone on that is that this is one of the oddest and coolest rental houses I've ever been in my life. There are 5 old school arcade games over here. There's like a movie theater behind us, pool table, weight room, ping pong table, golf simulator, outdoor basketball court with sport court, indoor basketball hoop. So it's myself, my wife, and our 2 kids, and then another couple and their 2 kids. So if you're talking about rainy day activities, like we have it covered every which possible way. I will say maybe the most rain, borderline rain question we had all week was yesterday when we were slated to play Biltmore Forest Country Club, and I was just trying like hell to convince my buddy Rob to go out there. He's like, we can't play in this rain. We can't play in this rain. I said, buddy, we got to go out there and see it. And boy, am I glad we did. And we got a fully sunny back nine. And I just have to say, Smylie, I sent you some pics. I think you are the horse for this course. Like, I think this is, if you tell me, if you're like, hey, Charlie, here's this golf course. All right. It's roomy off the tee, you can't hit it anywhere, but there's some room off the tee. It's got Zoysia fairways, shout out Vestavia. It's got diabolical but not crazy bent grass greens. It's got some sticky rough. You have to be a good wedge player to play out of it. And it's got this 1922 classic Donald Ross design with this unique bunkering.
That's where you lost me. Me and Big Don have never really got along.
You know what? And that's fair. But I'm telling you, this was the house that was built for Smylie Kaufman. Like you would tear this place up, and the best way, you'd have fun doing it.
It's more the greens for Donald Ross. Like I've never putted Donald Ross greens well. I don't know if it's just the everything falling off every single way. Where I've always putted better on greens that have continuous slope, and you could say that a lot about you don't want to go long at most Donald Ross golf courses. Well, it's kind of the whole way around, right? It's just it's a dinner plate turned upside down. So it's just, I don't know. I've never putted great. I know he has a ton of golf courses. So it's not exactly the best example, but I definitely follow you with the wedge stuff and the Zoysia and bent grass, all that's speaking to me. So maybe I need to go check it out.
I just feel like I never putt bent well because I'm like a read the grain Bermuda guy. And I got bamboozled so many times out there yesterday. And I was just thinking, man, I think Smylie might have read that putt right. Like I didn't read that putt right, but I think you would have had a read on that. It was.
I appreciate it.
It was so good. It was, and I'll tell you what the other cool thing about it was, like coming off of Aronimink week, where you're another Ross course that has these sort of crazy bent grass green complexes, but there's room off the tee, but it's a little bit of an interesting proposition out of the rough. Like we did a clubhouse tour at the turn. We're looking at all these original diagrams they have of Donald Ross's hole designs.
Dude, you're sick, man. Like, who does that at the turn? That's a before the round, after the round cocktail activity. You say, you know what? I've enjoyed this so much. Let's do a history of the clubhouse to learn more about some of these green complexes. Let's go get a tour from the shop. Is that how it went?
There was a tournament going on, so they're kind of trying to space us between these groups. So it was like, hey, you have 10 to 15 here. Would you like to go for a clubhouse tour? And I said, absolutely. And it was a perfect table set to go out and play the last 9. But I loved this place, Smylie. And John Rector, John Rector's the director of golf out there. His staff was like, it could not have been a better day. And it's like, I just need to get Smylie out here. Like, I need to get him out here. I need to see what he shoots. I think 61. I think like let's let you see it one time, and then like second round out, like 61. We're coming for you.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So we actually played the game with the club yesterday, man. We had 16 of us. It was a great day. We had a good group. Actually played with Big James, which I got a good couple stories to give you on that front. But AV was, after his team won, and he's like, "Hey, thanks, SK. You gave out 218 strokes today to the group."
That sounds like a true nightmare.
218 strokes. There's 15 other guys, and they're stroking off of my handicap. I mean, it's fine. I mean, we played we played dogfight points, so we have like an individual dogfight points leaderboard. So I actually came T2 in that, so I got my money back, which was nice. So it felt like it wasn't a total loss, but and then we take best 2 scores net, and we lost that. But then we also played yellow ball game. Have you ever played the yellow ball game?
No.
Oh man, this is great. So it's great for trips, especially down in Florida, where there's a bunch of water. Vestavia, you're not losing as many golf balls, but the name of the game is you have 4 players on a team, and the yellow ball starts with the first player. And it's better, honestly, when there's 2 foursomes, because you get to decide which player tees off on which hole, because it rotates. So you pick what order you go in, like it's almost like a baseball order. So I teed off first, and then the next time I'll get it, it will be on the 5th hole, and then I'll get on the 9th hole, the 13th hole, and the 17th hole. And then, the B player gets the second, and on and on and on until you get to the 18th hole. So each team has 2 yellow golf balls. And the true name of the game is that you cannot lose any of the golf balls to make sure that you actually complete the game. So as soon as you lose both balls, you're out of the game. So that's the stress in it, is that when you have the ball, the yellow ball, and you lose it, you only have one left. And then there's just all this pressure. So when you go play golf courses with a lot of water, especially like opening tee shots, the guys are hungover, and then you rip 2 out of bounds the first hole, and then you're immediately out of the yellow ball game. But our team, and there's no handicap in it, so it's just all just gross score. So you kind of get everything. So James on the second hole yesterday, he made one of the grossest 8s I've ever seen, but everybody was so proud of him because he never lost the ball. Like we went and found it in the fescue, like hit it in foot in front of him in the fescue, hit it to the top of the hill, and we're just like it's probably the tightest shot he's gonna have all day. This next shot with the 3-wood, I'm like, this could go anywhere. Like there's water left, there's OB right, and he keeps it in play. And we were so proud. Makes the best 8 ever. And honestly, we hung in there all day with the yellow ball, but there's AV's team was doing really well with that, and so we were pretty much out of that game. But we weren't sure if anybody was going to lose it, coming down the stretch. So we just wanted to make sure we completed it. So James had it on the last hole, and he hits this biggest high like into the fescue. So we're like, all right, we got to hit a provisional. And he hits the tree in front of him. So we know where that ball is in the fescue. So we're going to go find the other one to the right. And we never found it. So we go back to the one that was 30 yards off the tee, and and we find that one. And then he plays a 7-iron back in the fairway, hits the tree, goes back in the fescue, and we never find it. So he loses both of the yellow balls on the 18th hole. And we actually go and finish the round. James doesn't even finish. And then we realized we forgot in the actual game that on 9 and 18, we count everybody's score on that hole.
Oh boy.
So all scores count on 9 and 18 net. And we had to go back to drop. So it was just, it was an absolute, I mean, we were on the hole for 25 minutes probably, because we had to go back to then him drop, and then he played again, and then he made another 8. So it was just, it was a lot going on.
That sounds like a great day with the boys. You get 4 groups going. You get a little, I guess it was a Saturday game, Memorial Day weekend, can't beat it. But Big James, that's
now we have to endure months of manufactured rumors about will he or won't he retire LeBron James. They are probably, Donnie, working on the Decision 2.0 for Amazon Prime as we speak. Is Jim Gray still around? But here is the beauty of the predictive markets. They make insufferable stories about insufferable people highly profitable.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, you know, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Mattingly is doing a great job, clearly, right? They're 16-4 since he took over. But we have to remember when Rob Thompson took over for the Phillies and they went 65-46 back in 2022, he finished 5th in NL Manager of the Year that year. So could Mattingly win it? Of course, but he doesn't really have history on his side. I'm still on Don Kelly 15-1 to win Manager of the Year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
That came off a little funny based off of how I thought I hit him. And so that was the frustrating part, was that I had a couple shots that I felt like got away from me, not playing the ball I normally play. So got to throw that in there too. At least you have the excuse. You know, you have the excuse too, which is a built-in thing. It's kind of nice.
What we really should be doing is this should be like this game should be brought to you by the good people at Strixon. Get some of those Z-Star divides, like get a little yellow ball divide. That's how we need to run the yellow ball game in the future. All right, well,
just keep it in the back of your brain. Oh, the other good one too is the Rock game. Have you ever heard of this one?
No. Rock game. Okay.
Well, let me report back to you on this because I haven't played it in a really long time. So let's come back next week to tune into what game can you bring to your club that's stupid. It's the Rock game, and it involves carrying a big rock around. I know if you screw up. So let me get all the details on that, and I'll report back next week.
That's good. I love that. Like we're kind of easing into this episode. You know, we're talking about the golf we played this week, and we're giving you some new games to play. On the topic of, you got me thinking now. I'm thinking Big James here. Big James Cooks. By the way, go check out Big James on all of his socials, making great food. We played at Biltmore. We played at Biltmore Forest for dinner groceries. My buddy Rob chefed up this thing that was like wide noodles with prosciutto, like that he cooked like peas and like a cream reduction sauce in and tomatoes. And like that was the loser had to make dinner. I was really, really glad I won because I would have missed out on that like Big James Cooks level.
What were you gonna do? Hot dogs?
Pasta. I was probably gonna do hot dogs. Actually, we might have ran up the road. Just grab a Taco Bell family box. You guys want some cinnamon twists?
He's a good man, Savannah. He's a good man.
Well, no real smooth way to transition off of that. Maybe we'll say this. Okay, we were talking about some of these, Vestavia Hills, Biltmore Forest, these courses that we love that have Zoysia fairways. Let's talk about a golf course that used to have Zoysia fairways and now does not. And it was the host this weekend of the CJ Cup, TPC Craig Ranch. Now, I have to set the table for you here, Smylie. This was Lanny Wadkins to Golf Week regarding the renovation he did this past year of TPC Craig Ranch after Scotty Scheffler's winning score of 31 under last year in 2025. Lanny said, Invited Clubs, by the way, shout out Invited Clubs. They've hosted Jackson and I a number of times, played golf out there. We always love that on the road. Invited Clubs basically said they didn't want 30 under winning the thing anymore. And I told them, don't worry. And the winning score this week was Wyndham Clark. at 30 under. So, it's okay. And if I can add a little more context, because this is become a bit of a joke on golf social media, I'm going to give you some quotes from Scotty Scheffler on Wednesday, Jordan Spieth on Friday, and Wyndham Clark on Saturday, and then get your thoughts on the course. Scotty said, I think tee to green is definitely better than what it was before. It's a more interesting test. The greens have added a significant amount of slope to them. If they, a lot of it depends on where they want to put the pins. If they want to get really aggressive, the scoring could be drastically different. If they wanted the winning score here to be 5 to 10 under par, I think they could do it if they wanted to, just based on where they put the pins. That was on Wednesday prior to the tournament beginning. Then we got 2 days in, and we heard from Jordan Spieth after his round on Friday, and he said, I think the problem right now is this is like the first time in the history of Dallas that you'll have 4 or 5 days of very little east wind and soft conditions in May. You get your normal what we had on Monday, I hear. That's how it's designed. I think it would show that it's significantly harder, but also fair. And then Wyndham Clark said after his round on Saturday, I initially thought when we were playing the practice round, it was going to make the course tougher. Clearly it hasn't. In defense of the new design, it's been really wet and no wind, regardless of what you do. We're so good now. We're going to make a lot of birdies. Smylie, you'd heard some good things out of the ranch to start the week, and now here we are. We have another 30 under winning score. Just tell me where your head's at.
I tell you what, that is an all-time
try to say nice things.
Quote, like prior to the event, and then it actually 30 under wins. That is, he just had to turn off the television at the end of that turn and just be like, well.
I saw a good meme of like if you watch Succession, where I think it's Roman, where he's like in charge of some rocket launch. Some Twitter account posted this. He's just looking at all the messages filing in after the rocket explodes on the platform. It's like, oh yeah, that one didn't go the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It's a bummer. Like wet, no wind. We talk about it all the time. These guys are too good, and I don't care how hard you make a golf course. Based on what I was seeing though around the greens, still have Zoysia stuff around the greens, so that's easy to me. So like when you see why a lot of times scores get very low, it's around the greens. If it's super simple to get up and down, now there's a bunch of slope, which makes it challenging. But if you have good lies, there was a couple spotty lies I could tell, but for the most part, guys were able to spin it. They were kind of be able to control their golf ball because it's ball in hand. That's easy. And these guys are really good with their irons, and give them a bunch of par fives throughout the week. I think Scotty only made 1-5 throughout the whole week. Score's gonna be low, and I just feel bad for Siwoo. That's kind of my takeaway.
Yeah,
what else has the guy got to do to win this year?
Can you imagine going out? I mean, playing the way he did the first 3 days, but today he goes out. He's got a few shots lead. He shoots a 6 under 65, and he loses by 3 shots. Yeah. I mean, I just don't know what else you can do. I think that's an interesting point you make too about just turf grasses. And I know this is not like a classical design, but when you're just thinking about the characteristics of a course, especially, and this one, I actually don't know if they have Bermuda in the greens or not, but I know a lot of Dallas area courses stick with bent grass and spend a lot of money on the maintenance. I mean, that's what Colonial did when Gil Hanse redesigned that. But just the difference between a golf course that has played with Bermuda grass for a number of years and wants to retain those playing characteristics and then puts in some sort of Bermuda around their approaches, but uses Zoysia in the fairways where it plays a lot, better. Just thinking about the way you want a golf course to play, not only from, tee to fairway and approach, but also around the green. And it's interesting that, if it still looks like there's Zoysia around the greens there at TPC Craig Ranch, you're going to get a lot of AstroTurf lies, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think the best formula for the South, I guess you can consider Dallas the South. It's, I guess, more South. When I think of Southeast golf courses, I think of more Zoysia fairways, Bermuda rough, Bermuda approaches, Bermuda greens. Like that's kind of the best formula for a firmer, faster golf course. I think TPC Southwind is like a prime example of all of those different grasses. I love approach grasses that start about 30 yards out that turns into a really tight Bermuda, so that when you play shots into the green, they still play firm. But also the Zoysia's grass off of the fairway, it definitely lengthens your seasons. or really like late May. And that's just depending on where, your golf is. If it sits down in a valley and you have a bunch of trees, yeah, it can be that late in the season. So the Zoysia, typically in golf courses in the South, it's nice. Now TPC Craig Ranch, I've never played it, but it seems very open to me to where that wouldn't be the biggest concern. But I know they get a bunch of play, and yeah, also 25 million on the project, which is bizarre. It's a big number.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking at, I mean, we're really kind of getting away from the competition here, but it's interesting if you're looking at like the composition of clubs in Dallas and the different constituencies they're hoping to serve, and also just the initiation piece for those clubs. It's like, how do you work your way into that picture, and what do you need to do to stand out? So I understand why they did all the work, and I do think it's interesting that it's worst possible scenario from a weather perspective, where if you have the traditional sort of Dallas wind, if you have the conditions that, then all these things like slope come more into play. Something Scotty said here too, where if you could just explain this simply to the audience, like with all those slopes, even if you're putting hole locations close to the slopes, if there's no wind and it's soft, that still makes those tuck pins vulnerable, correct?
Doesn't matter. If it's soft and no wind, they can be playing on the dang moon, man. And these guys are gonna make birdies. You give these guys 4 par 5s in that, and then it's just always, middle to late May, when they typically play these Dallas events. There's always a front that rolls through at some point during the week, and for many years of which we played it always seemed to happen on Wednesday, and the golf course was always wet the entire week. Now I've played multiple different Byrons, so I played it at TPC Las Colinas. Actually, it's not at TPC, I don't think. I think it's just Las Colinas. Played there, and that was there forever.
Here, maybe like a
played it, and then I played at Trinity Forest a couple different times, and it never was firm enough there either, because they had gotten too much rain, and that course is very linksy in nature, no trees, and designed to play firm. So we didn't really get to experience it in full that week as well. So it's just, I don't know. I think they kind of thought that Trinity was going to be the answer, but it was much more of a location problem for Trinity. It was way too far away. They weren't getting quite the draw they typically would for the event, because Las Colinas for years and years and years always had great crowds, especially with its central location. And then Craig Ranch kind of came into the fold after Trinity, and I think for the most part, a lot of pros were familiar with it because it always had a second stage of Q School. It's easy for the PGA Tour. They don't have to pay a site fee with it being in the TPC network. So they're going to try to make it work, but it's just been an absolute blitz and birdie fest. And then I guess it's some type of membership. Somebody put a bunch of money into it, whether it was the
invited clubs
invited clubs put that much money into it. No, it doesn't mean that it's not going to work. It just means these guys are really good, and they didn't have the best conditions to make it, a 16 under week. How do you change, these 30 under scores? Well, don't give them 4 par 5s. Give them 2. Make it a par 70, and this talk will go away. And then you get a windy year. Next thing you know, 10 unders winning, right? So it could change in a heartbeat, and they just had a tough luck, obviously, this week. And hey, Wyndham Clark played some unbelievable golf, as well did, anybody in that top 10 probably played some pretty dang good golf.
Without a doubt. And let's get to Wyndham here to talk about just his sort of, however long you want to create the window to view the journey he's been on. But this is a guy that in April 2024 was 3rd in the OWGR, and he was as high as 7th to begin last season in 2025. Entering this week, he was 75th in the world. And in his last 25 starts, he'd made 2 of 4 major cuts and actually tied for 4th at the 2025 Open Championship, but only 8 top 20s, 7 missed cuts. And it was interesting looking at his stats. 2 best finishes this year have been a tie for 13th at the Amex and a tie for 16th at the RBC Heritage. Both those weeks were big pop weeks putting. And so this week, he finishes first in the field, averaging slightly more than 3 strokes gained putting per round. Obviously, just hooped it on Sunday en route to that 60. And he was just talking after that win, just reflecting on that journey. He said, look, it's been frustrating, but that's golf. I went through kind of a tough spurt, not swinging it good, not feeling comfortable with a lot of things. And I did a lot of work this offseason working on my golf swing. Then I started hitting it better, but I wasn't making the putts then finally landed on a great putter, and everything's been kind of coming together.
Mm.
Where is Wyndham on your like tour big board or rankings of microwave putters? Because when this guy gets hot, we saw it with the 60 to close out, rain short Pebble Beach.
Very, very high. He's been really since he's been on the PGA Tour, been an excellent putter, and I've always considered him to be one of the best long putters in the game. Just a player that not only has good speed control from outside 20 feet, but when you're from that far away, you're really good at.
The UIM Formula One World Championship Series. We are over the moon excited about the upcoming season.
Let's go.
10,000 horsepower roars off the dock. Oh my, there's a problem. On the outside, side by side.
He's lost control of the book.
Hopes and dreams of winning here.
Yes!
Get ready for round one. The Regione Sardegna Grand Prix of Italy, May 29th to 31st.
Craig Carton along with Tyrone Johnson. We got great news for you. CraigCartonShow.com. And Tyrone, what do you get if you go to that amazing website?
Well, right now you can subscribe to our upcoming newsletter. You put in your email address, and then bang, you'll get all the new Craig Carton Show content when it arrives.
Not just that, you also get merch drops, exclusive content, and appearances. So again, one more time, that website is CraigCartonShow.com.
Another team that is really, really, really difficult to play against is Ecuador. And people just think, Ecuador, like, you know, how much of a budget do they have or whatnot, right? But Ecuador are good. Like, I'm telling you, like, everybody's like, I don't want to have to face Ecuador. Like, that won't be fun. Like, there are a couple of these sleepers, but ultimately to win the World Cup, it's a lot like the NCAA tournament.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Finally, had the breakthrough. It's been a year in which he's done a lot of really good stuff. You mentioned the Open Championship last year. Even at that tournament, he got off to a poor start. He shot 76 in the first round, shot mid 60s the rest of the week. So he's a player that has all the capabilities of not just being a one-time major winner. He's totally a guy that could win another one. And he's the type of guy that could have a second half of a year, just having this 1 week that just reminds him of, bang, we got it. This is it. So it wouldn't shock me at all if he went on win another time this year.
It's you almost answered the question already. The next place I was going to go is just his, more so than many players, his openness about the mental side of the game, the struggles, the work he does. Done a lot of that with Julie Elion as a sports psychologist, and he was so quick to mention in that post the winner's interview with Amanda Balionis, she was just asking open-ended about his sort of comeback, and the first place he goes is the locker room incident at Oakmont and how much that weighed on him. I thought that was pretty interesting for a guy that, and it may very well still be true what you're saying, where that didn't seep into competition, but I just wondered from the perspective of this guy maybe wears it a little bit more than most guys do, and he has something like that where not only is it frustration for missing a cut at a major championship, but it's a poor reflection on stature in a golf world. It's very important to professionals and just people in this sort of world, which that is a sort of a small space. So I thought it was interesting. That was the first place he went with Amanda.
Yeah, I mean, I think just try to relate it back to yourself. Like if that happened to you, right? Like if that happened to you and you're playing at a member guest, right? And you miss the last putt on the last hole, you go into your buddy's locker room and you just lose control. And next thing you smash a walker. And I bet, next time you played, at your home club, you just don't know if people are talking like it's just an emotional thing that like mentally it's probably not easy to know that people are talking about you. That's a not an easy thing to deal with. It I don't think it probably affected the way he played, but it probably affected the way in which he felt like other people, whether it was a respect thing, it just sucks, like that's
Yeah.
something that obviously Wyndham would take back in an instant. But I remember calling it, dude, and I remember how mad he was going to be walking off the course because I was just thinking, it's like, man, Wyndham just missed another cut. He is going to be absolutely PO'd based on what I just watched on this last couple holes for him to miss cut at Oakmont. And then the story comes out later, and I was like, I mean, I'm not shocked. It was just, it's a frustrating game, man. And it's a shame that those walkers were made back in the 1920s and they don't have them anymore. Walkers just like them to replace them. Not saying that's what he should have done.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting, and this is really playing it forward. We don't have to go super deep on this, but he was asked about the President's Cup after the win, and he said, last year I was really bummed I didn't play in New York. Obviously, I didn't have a great year, so I understand, but I felt like Bethpage was a great golf course for me, so it was a bummer that I didn't make it. To be honest, it pissed me off, but I knew I didn't earn it. I was more mad at myself. And just looking at the President's Cup, Medina, it's going to be such an interesting mix of new blood, old blood. Like I just, it's hard to even handicap right now when you're looking at, 7 and beyond, and it's names like, Goddard and Bridgman, but mixed in Akshay Bhatia. Like there are just going to be so many, especially if this is the beginning of a trend for Wyndham. It's a great problem to have for Brandt Snedeker, but it is a problem.
Yeah, no, he's another player that's got experience, right, on these teams, and that's been a big problem in the United States teams that they've had these guys, be the stalwarts on the United States side that have just like fallen off, right? Like Max and Wyndham are two players that had made multiple teams and now like really weren't even in the conversation. It felt like for this past year at Bethpage, these are two guys that you would have said a couple years ago, oh yeah, they're going to be on multiple teams, like they're never going to miss one. But that's how quick this game can turn on you.
Yeah, without a doubt. So one to keep an eye on, of course, to see how Wyndham plays. 2 more majors left this season. Obviously played great, as we noted, at an Open Championship last year. Another notable piece of news that came out of this week at TPC Craig Ranch is that Blades Brown has officially earned your favorite status offered out there on tour. With a 3-way tie for 14th, he has officially earned special temporary membership. And he was asked about it after the round on Sunday, and here's what he had to say. I think I'm going to play next week in Raleigh on the Korn Ferry Tour. Then, yeah, we'll see what we're going to do after that. Good golf takes care of everything. Korn Ferry Tour is awesome. For me, what it's done for me is it's provided me a pathway to the PGA Tour. The cool thing that I think it's done is it's taught me to go low. I can't thank the Korn Ferry Tour enough for teaching me those valuable lessons, because everybody out on the PGA Tour, they can go low. Look at Wyndham, look at Scotty, look at Siwoo. 28 under, 27 under is no joke. Without the Korn Ferry Tour, I would not have had that strength. If only we played TPC Craig Ranch every week, Blades Brown. And now, as pointed out on Twitter by Monday Q Info, it's going to be an interesting sort of deal for Blades to figure out, because he enters the week 9th in the Korn Ferry Tour standings. He goes and plays the tour event and gets special temp, but he drops to 13th in those Korn Ferry Tour standings. And there are different ways to earn your card. Both could be equally valuable. It's not the exact same, but it's not dissimilar to what Pearson Coody did last year, playing this sort of split schedule. So, my question for you is, and Pearson, of course, earned his way back on tour through the Korn Ferry Tour, is that if you were game planning the schedule for Blades Brown, what sort of advice would you be giving him?
I would probably try to chase the Korn Ferry still, like initially. I think you try to go and lock that up as best you can. Just keep trying to move yourself up the points list, right? If you're at 13th now, see if you can go play 2 weeks in a row. And if you win one, I feel like that should take care of it. If you have a couple top 10s, at least get you in a spot to where you feel a little bit more comfortable about going maybe to play a couple more PGA Tour events. But what you don't want to do is just bank on the PGA Tour and then have yourself slide out of that Korn Ferry spot to where all of a sudden you're back at the same spot you were the year prior. Like, that's what you don't want to happen. Like, you don't want to have conditional status on the PGA Tour and just have full status in the Korn Ferry. Like, you got to find your way on the PGA Tour next year. He's a guy that's going to continue to get sponsors invites. Now he gets unlimited sponsors invites, of course, with a special temp, but you don't want to go through that same thing the following year. So the goal, have a full card when he gets the PGA Tour next year. So I would probably suggest continue on the Korn Ferry Tour route. Now, if you're feeling great and you want to roll the dice and you want to just go chase the PGA Tour, you could do that. But again, that's a gamble, right? Because if you don't get the points, and I can't remember if you get all the points that you accumulated at that point. I feel like I never remember. I don't think you do. I don't think you do get the points because you're not a PGA Tour member, right? But he's a Korn Ferry Tour member. I don't know.
This is where, please, if you know the minutia of these rules, like we track this very best we can. And we've had this discussion probably like 5 different times on the show, various stages of Akshay Bhatia or Ryan Gerard's special temporary member journey. The thing I think it's interesting is how the dynamics have changed since some of those conversations that we had about those guys, where now it's earning an equal to or better number of points to the 100th member, right, to get your tour card next year.
So which makes it even more difficult.
Which makes it more difficult, and then you're also playing this sort of interesting game because that is at the conclusion of the fall section of the schedule. Which is
great for him though, because he's got the whole fall now to do that. So I think that's why he chases Korn Ferry now, and then he's got the whole fall to basically go and try to up his status. Like, go get your Korn Ferry Tour PGA Tour card. You're going to be in those 20 guys, and then you have the whole fall to basically try to improve your status to where you might be in that top 100, to where you skip all the Korn Ferry guys. You might get in an extra event or two.
I think that's like,
I like Tommy as agent, but maybe we should be his agent.
Or we should be his special temporary consultants.
There you go. They need to bring us in.
Can you imagine just like the pitch deck on that, where we're like, this is how we understand the rule. We don't know it exactly. We'll kind of talk it out in the context of this meeting and figure out a good schedule. We'll get you dialed in. We should be his special temporary consultants.
There you go. There you go. They need to bring us in.
They need to bring. Can you imagine just like the pitch deck on that, where we're like, this is how we understand the rule. We don't know it exactly. We'll kind of talk it out in the context of this meeting and figure out a good schedule. We'll get you dialed in. But
what's interesting too is that Tommy's the agent of Blade Brown, but he's also the agent of Akshay Bhatia, who went through the exact same thing. So I think it's great for Blades is that they're not doing this for the first time. They know exactly what the right call is, and he's going to get good advice. And Blades is, I think wherever he tees it up, he's going to be confident. Like this kid he bleeds, this positive energy. So Blades, wherever he plays, he's going to be happy and excited, and ready to go. Because why wouldn't you be? You're like 19 years old playing on the PGA Tour or wherever tour.
I enjoyed the Amex speak so much, and then he jumped on the show. Just like, all the stuff on Happy Hour, like just a guy that has a real. You can tell he's insanely talented, but also just enjoying the heck out of the ride, which is it's a rare combination to see.
Well, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think if Blades Brown would have gone to Tennessee, let's say? And he's at school. This would have been maybe his second year. Like, would this have been his sophomore year in college?
18 or 19? Like, he might still be a freshman at this point. No, is that right? Wouldn't last year have been his first collegiate year? Or did he go to Korn Ferry Tour earlier?
I feel like he'd be a sophomore now, but maybe not. Anyways, what I'm asking you, the question is do you think that Blades would be at the same level of Jackson Koiven?
That's the question, right? That's the question.
Do you think that he would be dominating college golf? The answer's got to be he's right there with Jackson Koiven, right? Because what he's doing at this professional level, like this is a no-brainer answer, right?
I think so. I think and if you're really trying to get specific, it's like how far along would he be right now in earning his PGA Tour his card via the PGA Tour accelerated? Like how many PGA Tour
depends on what year he is. we gotta figure out if he's a sophomore or freshman.
How many awards has he won? How many awards would he have won that Jackson Koiven won because he stayed in school after getting to 20 points? There is actually.
He won the Phil Mickelson Award, which is the freshman of the year. Did he win the Natty his freshman year too? Like, did he win the Natty?
I'd have to go back. I've got a wonky computer situation going on right now. I got an iPad over here, and I'm trying not to.
Anyways, he would have
my camera.
He would have done with what JT and Jordan, all those guys would have done as freshmen, where they would have just clearly these aren't guys that are going to be there very long. And Jackson Koiven has been a player that I think we've all kind of said, what are you still doing there? Like he's ready to get to the PGA Tour. We all see it. He's already got his card. And gosh, we might be seeing him in, RBC Canadian Open as a pro.
I think the interesting thing for me, I do. You have, by the way, the fans of the Smylie Show that missed this, I believe Smylie has Jackson Koiven on the President's Cup team going to Medina alongside potentially Wyndham Clark now. I mean, we're going to need a 24-player roster to get all the guys on this team we need to have on this team. More. I do think it's interesting in what you're talking about in terms of the approach that now, Tommy, the agent to Akshay Bhatia and to Blades Brown, advising for that route versus advising for using this PGA Tour U system that's gotten better and better over the years to eventually find your way onto the PGA Tour. And to me, it feels like the Blades Brown Akshay approach has a higher ceiling but a lower floor. Like if you get that wrong and you don't get sponsor exemptions and you lose status, like you could be tumbling out of relevance very quickly. But
100%.
Kind of to our point now, some of these points you're getting for this PGA Tour U accelerated, if there's another good player you're contending with and you're not earning that 3 points you need or whatever it is to kind of inch up towards 20, look at where Blades is now. Made a bet on himself and he earned special temp membership on the PGA Tour and is likely looking like he'll have a PGA Tour card next year. Whereas the PGA Tour U system definitely provides a pathway that probably a lot of college golfers did not have in previous years, but it's a little bit safer, right? It's like, even if you stay in that system and you're not in the top 5, we got all these different pathways for you to to kind of pursue to get a card through America's Korn Ferry Tour, however that looks. So I think it's good in both ways. I think it takes a lot of it takes making a big gamble, making a big bet on yourself. You're actually Blades Brown, but if you have that much belief, look at how it played out for both of them.
And college golf is very different than professional golf. College golf, you have everything being taken care of for you from, the coaches already having the schedule set up. You have everything at your locker when it comes to clothes. Everything's ordered for you. You get out to the golf course, and sometimes the practice schedule could be something that's created by the coach, and you're kind of following what the practice is for the day. Whereas a pro, you set your own schedule, you book your own stuff, you stay just by yourself. So you lose the community as a professional golfer. But as a collegiate golfer, you have all the teammates. You have so much fun with all these guys. And some guys really do like being around other guys. And they get better by playing against, guys that they're around every single day, where they kind of compete day in and day out. Some guys get worse because they're either in a system where the practice in which they, the coach is running them through is something that maybe isn't the best way for that player to get better, that maybe they would do better as a loner, where they can just, go do their own thing, not, be around the guys as much. Like they don't need that, like maybe another player would. And I think some players play well in that college golf system. When it's a lot. Often you got the team van, you get there, and you got shotgun starts, and you're used to the same schedule over and over. And then when you get out to professional golf, it's just different, man. It's just a little bit different. Like the style in which you got to go, make birdies. And especially with collegiate golf, how I think setups at college golf tournaments sometimes can be harder than the PGA Tour. And what I mean by that is that most college tournaments will always tip it out. Like they'll never move tees around. They just play the back of the box every single time. And you're playing for the most part in fall and spring. So you're not playing in the summer when it's dead calm. So for the most part, you're always playing in places where the wind blows. So you're tipping it out, wind blows, and
probably course is softer, right? Not in the middle of summer, firm, fast.
And for the most part, slow rounds.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Go over the summer where there's drastic changes and gas drops down to $3 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon in some states, and then you have some of the price markets go down. You ride that momentum is what Joe's talking about. So if you say right now, which party will win the U.S. House, and you think it's the Republicans currently trading at 20%, you take them now, and if good press comes, that turns into 25% and 30%, then you have the option to cash out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
And
Flight course is softer, right? Not in the middle of summer, firm, fast.
And for the most part, slow rounds. So it's very tough to get in rhythm because there's a lot of teams at a lot of these events. You know, you got 5, of course, on each team playing. Most of the time you got individuals playing too. So the pace of play is slow. You're playing 36 holes a day, carrying your bag. It's harder, but it's different, right? It's just a long days, and you know, some guys do really well in that. Some guys don't. But yeah, just to kind of, I know a lot of people haven't played college golf, so they don't really know what it's like. And then some teams fly private, you know, and some teams drive in a van. And I can tell you most guys that are on the professional making their way, getting started, they're in their car that they own, and they're driving 13 hours from one place to the next. And that's professional golf. And that's why a lot of guys get lonely, and they start playing poorly because they just do better around other people.
I always think it's fascinating when you talk on the show to other pros about that process of migrating from college to pro, and even just things like we had Keegan Bradley on recently talking about just the van with the boys at St. John's and like how much you miss that part of it. But I think it's something you've talked about with Nick Dunlap, maybe Webb Simpson, if my memory serves me correctly, of just becoming your own CEO. Like just the burden of responsibility that's placed on you to run the company that is you once you're out on the road. And just, you know, there are these sort of things where you have this level of comfort at a collegiate level, and you know, and you're being developed not only as a potential professional golfer, but as a human being, and just like how that can have an impact on future success. It's a layered thing. But you know, clearly this path for Blades, it doesn't seem like there's any indecision here, which I think is probably key. Is like his parents have supported him in this decision 100%, even though they explored college. And this is, you know, here he is, special temp member about a year and a half into the experiment.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Blades. He's gonna be he's gonna do just fine. He's gonna do just fine. And two, it's so interesting, like so many different coaches in college golf. There's, you know, so many Hall of Famers that have coached plenty of PGA Tour players, and they all kind of do it a different way. And I always find it interesting, you know, like Georgia, the amount of players that have come out of the University of Georgia. Like you can just name you know, countless amounts, right? Harris, Hud, Sepp, Patrick Reed, list goes on and on. Russell Henley. And, you know, Chris Hack was a guy that basically said, you know what, guys, there's a rich history here, and I'm not going to tell you how to do all this. Like, if you want to be great, you got to come here and work. And there wasn't necessarily like a schedule that he had for the guys. It's like, we're going to go qualify and we're going to have to go earn it. And I think Sepp has talked to us about this on the show here, that nobody's exempt. And he tried to, you know, frame his qualifying and the way his lineups were set similar to how the PGA Tour operates. And so if you wanted to be really good, you're going to have to go practice and work your tail off to get as good as the other guys. So I really like the way that someone like Chris Hack set it up, where there's a lot of, you know, these programs that have coaches that are very, very hands-on, that have you do, you know, hey, I want you to do this, this, and this in a day, and then we're going to go play. And some guys just, you know, it's like, actually, no, I actually do better if I can just go play and go feel and find it out on the golf course. So there's some guys, like I was just kind of getting to, you can kind of overthink things and get a little worse with maybe a coach that isn't quite suited for you. So for Blades, just think about, let's say he went to a program where he doesn't need to be told anything other than whatever his coach is telling him. And clearly his dad's pretty involved for what they say. And so if you got a coach that's very hands-on that he works with, and it's like, well, shoot, this isn't going to work, right? Like, this guy's good enough. You just don't need to screw him up, right? So clearly in this case, like, Blades has made the right decision. Not to say that any coach or program that he would have gone to where the coach would have done or overcoached him or any sorts, but that's always a fear for any coach, is when you get a top player to come in, is that you don't want to screw him up, right?
Without a doubt. It's, I mean, I think it's just interesting to see just the ways in which success has been bred for this most recent crop of players, like let's call it like the last 2, 3, 5 years, the Jackson Coivins and the Luke Clantons and that crowd against the Akshay Bhatias and the Blades Browns. And, to your point, like every recipe for every different guy should be customized to that player. And this is the one that worked for Blades, and it might not be the one that works for the next, guy that needs the support of college and that sort of camaraderie and teammate, all those good things. So
we'll see you next week on the Golf Channel. This has been The Smylie Show.
I listen to this podcast. It's really cool. And
all of our local fans and subscribers, but make sure you like and subscribe.
It's cool to see what you guys are doing. I know golf fans appreciate it, but we do too, so please keep it up.
For all the good people at YouTube, like and subscribe.
You guys have some good takes, so I'm happy to come on and shoot the